Steve. Okay, and we are recording. So thanks, Steve, for the introduction, and thank you, Alayne, for being here to give us this really useful webinar today. It's good to see you all. I am Jen Chikaitis. I am the president of the New Jersey or Alpha Xi chapter of Epsilon Sigma Phi or ESP. And before we start with the topic for today, I just wanted to take a couple of quick minutes to tell you a little bit about ESP in case you are not familiar with it. So the mission of ESP is to foster standards of excellence in the extension system and to develop the extension profession and professional. So unlike a lot of the other professional organizations that you may belong to, this ESP is more focused on professional development and leadership of extension professionals and not focused on one topic area like, you know, with 4-H or ag or FCHS. Membership is open to extension personnel, all extension personnel. So if you're here, you are eligible to join ESP, and I encourage you to do so. That includes administration, university and county-based professionals, and retirees who exhibit excellence in extension programming, which I would argue is every single one of us. Membership is established through state chapters that are chartered through the national organization. So as I mentioned before, I'm the president of the New Jersey chapter right now. And with members from all aspects of extension system, members have an opportunity to network with members from all of extension, regardless of subject area or position. And these are some of the benefits of membership in ESP. So scholarships for individual professional development opportunities, professional development grants for chapters, chapter and national recognition programs for member individuals and teams, opportunities to give peer-reviewed scholarly presentations. That's both at the 3 different national conferences that they have throughout the year and also webinars. Involvement in public issues and activities. The ESP Connection newsletter and other relevant communications to members. Chapter and national leadership opportunities. It's a network of extension professionals united across disciplines and program areas, and also mentoring opportunities, both to be a mentor and a mentee. And partnerships with the Joint Council of Extension Professionals and the National Institute for Food and Agriculture. And these are the national conferences that take place. PILD, which is the Public Issues Leadership Development Conference. That's in Washington, D.C. in April. That includes a visit to the Hill, which is a really awesome experience. If you haven't done it, I highly recommend it. Just passed this year, but in preparation for next year, you can get yourself ready. JCEP, or the Joint Council of Extension Professionals, that's in Kansas City, Missouri in February. And ESP National, which this year is in Billings, Montana in September. With these 3 conferences, there's plenty of opportunities to give presentations, also to just network with professionals from across the country. I presented last year at the PILD conference, and I created a presentation with colleagues from Utah, Mississippi, and Wisconsin, who I hadn't met in person until we got to the conference. And so that was just a really great experience to network with people on a national level. And here we are. If you have any questions about ESP, please feel free to get in touch with any one of us, and we're happy to answer your questions. And just a plug for our annual state meeting coming up. It's at the Terhune Orchards, which includes a winery. We are going to have space in the afternoon for non-members to come and learn more about ESP. So you're welcome to come, even if you are not a member. Who doesn't love an afternoon at a winery, right? And then here is the link and also the QR code for the new member application if you're interested in joining. You can just scan that, go to the website or go to the link there and fill out the application. And as I said before, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. We would love to have you join us. We're a good group of people, and hope to see you soon. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alayne Torretta to talk about decluttering today. I have a lot to learn about this topic, so I'm very happy to be here. And hopefully you will all learn a lot today. I know I will. So thank you, Alayne, for being here. And I'm going to pass it over to you now.
Thank you, Jen. I'm going to start the slideshow. I just want to have a quick caveat here is that while I talk about decluttering and tidying and downsizing and being organized, that does not make me a guru at this. But I have done a lot of personal research and am very interested in the topic, always have been. And now that the internet is prevalent over the past, say, 20 years, I've been able to check out a lot of different resources. So it's really sharing of resources and ideas and let you know that there is science behind this. So that's what I really want to share with you today. And as Steve said, if you have questions or comments, every time I teach this, people are always raising their hands because they identify with the topics that I talk about, and we're going to go through a lot of different things. So it's best if we talk or you make your comments or ask your questions while we're in the middle, because then we're moving on to a different type of topic. So since I'm sharing my screen, I can't see all of you, so I'm hoping that Steve and Jen will kind of be my eyes and let me know. So
Yeah, looks good, Alayne. Looks good.
Yeah, okay, good. And then you can unmute if you know, all else fails, just unmute and go, wait, stop. So I'd be happy to answer. So let's get started. There are three different types of clutter, main types of clutter. One is the emotional clutter that we have in our life, limiting beliefs, anger, hurt, fear, those types of things. Then there's the mental clutter, which is all the things that we have to try to remember to do during the day or during the week. And extension professionals know that there is a lot packed into that concept. And then the last is the physical clutter. And that's basically what we're going to be addressing today, because if you can sort through the physical, it kind of seeps into the mental and the emotional. So it kind of is one of those things where you surround yourself with, good and positive, and it kind of lifts your spirits and affects you mentally. Interestingly enough, before I became the Warren County 4-H agent 23 years ago, before I started working for Extension, I worked adult psychiatry for 10 years as a recreation therapist on acute care, voluntary, and acute care involuntary. And as the recreation therapist, I did a lot of exploring with the patients who were in crisis, and they all struggled with organization, with tidiness. As depression seeps in, you care less and less about your environment, and that is certainly one thing that adds to this issue. So total no judgment, even if you want to reach out afterwards to kind of talk about things. I'd be more than happy to. I'm no longer a certified recreation specialist, therapist, but I still have a deep respect for people and helping them kind of get organized. So emotional clutter, that's guilt, regret that we might feel, toxic relationships that we have, fear and worry, and insecurities, and that negative self-talk. So this is the kind of clutter that I dealt with when I worked adult psychiatry. We had quite a few people that came through with major depression and was having a hard time functioning in their life because they had a lot of emotional things going on in their lives. And a big part of dealing with that is that mindfulness and the, not so much yoga, but the mindfulness, taking a break, treating yourself with kindness. And that in and of itself can be an entire hour-long workshop. And then the next kind of clutter is the mental clutter. And that's all of the things that occupy our brains. And there's a lot of reasons for it, but mind clutter comes from holding on to the past or fixating on things that are beyond our control, whether it's obsessing over past mistakes or getting weighed down by what others think of you. It's important to learn how to let go of the things that you cannot change. The Serenity Prayer comes to mind for that as well. So we could talk about that afterwards too, if you're so inclined. And then it's very well known that the mental clutter, the to-do list, the calendar events, everything in our brains, we find a shocking amount of relief on the physical clutter when we cut back on it, so that if your environment is less chaotic, our mind will be less chaotic as well. So, and that's been well documented. So let's talk more about the physical clutter and living in the United States. So, let me know if you can hear this.
We spend so much time on the...
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Hold on. I assumed you couldn't. All right.
We spend so much time on the hunt, but nothing ever quite does it for us. And we get so wrapped up in the hunt that it kind of makes us miserable.
Black Friday shopping mania is still playing out tonight at malls across America.
High hopes of saving some big bucks on those holiday gifts.
Stores filled to the brim.
In some cases, it did turn violent.
We've, as a culture, have lost our minds.
There's no question that what it means to have achieved the American dream has increased tremendously in material terms.
This is not something that just happened yesterday. This is something that has been sold to us over the past 100 years by those that want to make a whole lot of money.
Now that's what I call a good-looking car.
You have this thing that you were obsessed about, but then the new version comes out, and now you no longer care about the one you have. In fact, the one you have is a source of dissatisfaction.
People are beginning to recognize that they've maybe been tricked.
There is no out until you become aware. You're not going to get happier by consuming more.
Ready?
I was born ready. There's nothing wrong with consumption. The problem is compulsory consumption. We're tired of it. We're tired of acquiring things because that's what we're supposed to do.
When I heard about minimalism, it wasn't about just getting rid of my stuff. It was about taking control of my life and stop being told what to do and actually deciding what I wanted to do.
When I first started reducing the number of things in my life, I found out that I had 51 things in the entire world.
We've probably sold or donated at least 90% of our stuff.
As I started to move that stuff out, I was able to finally realize what I had sacrificed.
I don't know what the most common 3 words are in American homes. I don't know if it's I love you or if it's I want that.
This same thing that's not making us happy is also causing the degradation of our habitat.
We're going to have to give up a lot. The secret is that a lot of that we're not actually going to miss.
What I found with minimalism is it's a way of saying, let's stop the madness.
When you recognize that this life is yours and that it is your one and only, and when that seeps directly in your bones and you recognize that this is it, everything changes.
So I don't know if anybody ever was able to watch that. It did come out pre-pandemic. Post-pandemic, though, we're seeing that during the pandemic, people were cleaning up and decluttering a lot, so much so that a lot of the thrift stores weren't taking items. So it's taking root, and that's really refreshing to see. But there still is a lot going on with this. It's not an end goal. It's sort of like a life path and a guardrail. There are major issues surrounding having too much stuff. So there's a host of research that shows that clutter is a detractor to efficiency, and clutter and acquiring does have a robust association with stress. And hoarding symptoms are associated with greater anxiety, depression, and impairment. And just because you have a lot of clutter and a lot of things doesn't mean that you're a hoarder. And there are usually in the elderly, there's hoarding kind of takes over because of the inability mentally to regulate your life. So those are the kinds of things that are not something that we're facing in our own lives as far as the mental compensation, but we have stuff. A lot of people do have a lot of different things. The average American carries $5,500 in credit card debt, and that's at the end of 2021, according to Experian. I did look for 2022, and I found a lot of different varying numbers, so I went with the one that Experian did. I don't think they put out the 2022 number yet. So average Americans are buying and consuming a lot of things. And if you noticed in that video, he was peeling off the iPhone 6. So, you know, if you had that today, you'd be feeling very behind, you know, the trend. I think they're at like 13 or 14 now. 3.1% of the world's children live in the US, but they own 40% of the toys consumed globally. So our children are learning from a young age to collect, to own, and it's a bad habit. And over the course of our lifetime, we'll spend about 3,600 hours or 153 days of our lives searching for misplaced items. And the research shows that we lose up to 9 items every day, or almost 200,000 items in a lifetime. Phones, keys, sunglasses, paperwork top the list. I am always looking for my phones and sunglasses, always, actually, and regular glasses as well. And because we work for Extension, we certainly want to think about the environment. And this chart here comes from the US EPA. And you see here where we as Americans generate, let's see, there it is, by weight in the thousands of US tons. In 1960, we were at 1,760,000 tons. And in 2018, we're at 17,030. And the numbers are just going up and up and up. So the landfills as well, you can see 1,710, and now in 2018, 11,300. I don't have, the EPA did not post from the pandemic on, so it'd be interesting to see how that has grown. But it just kind of like in the 80s, it seems to have doubled. So there is a very big impact on our environment because of our consumption as well. So let's look at some numbers at a glance. Across the US, there are about 5,000 colleges and universities. There are 20,469 public and private high schools in the country. There are 51,206 storage facilities across the US. And I drive to Texas every once in a while on vacation, and you would be amazed at the number of storage facilities that I've seen across America. Even driving through Wyoming, I've seen several along the highway. So, and they're growing. It's one of the fastest growing businesses in the country. And I had to update these numbers. Actually, the number of public and private high schools kind of came down a bit when I first put this together in 2018. And the number of storage facilities, I think it was at 44,000, is now up to 51. So it's growing. So Cornell Cooperative Extension has been addressing this, according to Riegelsberger, that clutter is a decision, and each item that we have is the put off or the delayed decision of what to do with it. So my office gets filled with things, number one, after an event, but also number two, of like, what do I do with this? Do I file it? Do I put it away? Do I toss it? Do I recycle it? Do I keep it for next year? Do I buy new? Yeah, I got to do something with that. And it just happens. So it does hamper our effectiveness. I try to keep an absolutely clean desk, but that does not always happen. So let's talk about toys and child development. Researchers found that an abundance of toys present reduced the quality of a toddler's play. Fewer toys at once may help toddlers focus better and play more creatively. And I get caught up in that too. I have a granddaughter and I love to give her things. She's only 2, so she's not really into like the opening the present thing. But having her get excited about seeing something, it brings me joy. But then I have to remember that, you know, if you overwhelm a child with so much wonderfulness, it's going to hamper their creativity, and they're not going to be able to focus. And you can do a lot of different things when you reduce the amount of items for play, just using your imagination, or you know, using one of my favorite toys, and I can't wait to get this for her, is a trunk of old either clothes or dress up type things, so that everything goes back in the trunk, but then she's using her imagination to express herself. So the research is from 2018, and this is just one of the studies that I found. I also found a study that when small children, like within a year when they're grabbing, if you presented a child with the plastic bright colored car keys or a regular real car keys, the babies always go for the real. So a lot of the stuff the kids don't even have a penchant for. So it's definitely something that warrants more exploration. So why do we clutter? Procrastination, like Riegelberger says, is that it's a decision delayed. And chronic procrastinators have reported that they have too much possessions or stuff, and that clutter interferes with the strong quality of their lives. There is comfort and attachment to our things. Hoarding is associated with greater emotional attachment to possessions. And I think this is where it's going to trip me up as I go through life. I can ascribe value to just about anything. We were cleaning out my aunt's house after she passed in 2018, and she had this little statue thing of 4 children on a hill, like tobogganing. And I said to my cousin's daughter-in-law, "Oh, look, it's all 4 of your children." Because at first everybody's like, "Nope, don't want it, don't want it." And once I had said that, her eyes got real big. She teared up and she said, "I want that." And I felt like it was a horrible thing to do to her, but I didn't realize that was going to happen. But, you know, people will attach significance to items, and it makes you feel closer to loved ones. And then exaggerated protective nature, and I have this as well, mostly because of the environment. So I have a lot of clutter. It's because I'm trying to figure out how to recycle it or how to dispose of it properly, rather than just going through, grabbing everything and shoving it in a garbage bag. So, you know, I'm always trying to make sure that what needs to be recycled or what can be actually does. So, or reusing things, and, you know, finding new life for things, finding new people who would really benefit from it, as well as upcycling and repurposing. And then people who are just too busy, no time, that sounds like an extension agent. We work pretty scattered hours, and having that time, or just feeling like you have that energy after a long day, you just don't have the ability to problem solve and to make decisions and think. So this extremely prevalent at fair time. So I love the hashtag, ask any 4-H agent around fair time how much clutter that they have in their office or even their homes. You know, my family knew it was fair time, and therefore all the stuff in the dining room they knew was going to the fairgrounds and not to touch it. It just happens. Don't know where it come from. I think it grows. So, but it's not just clothing and toys. Computer clutter too is a plague upon the modern world. And there were studies done in 2015 said that high data density clutter and poor organization increases response time and error rate. So I've seen people, this no judgment, I've seen people at different conferences and whatnot, when they open up their screen, this is what they see. And this is no longer my screen, but this used to be my screen. I have a different picture now, but I can't think if I have this staring at this when I open up in the morning. So it's very overwhelming. Now, I also have about 15 tabs open on my computer. So I'm not immune to it because I'm working on several different projects at a lot of different times. So, I get it. It's hard not to clutter, but at least starting with a fresh screen, kind of makes me feel I can tackle stuff during the day. So for physical clutter, why are we so attached to our things? We find comfort in our things, and we do so from a very young age. Piaget found that humans become attached to items at a very early age, and those things kind of go with us through life. And there was an endowment effect that was described by Richard Thaler in 1980, that we ascribe value to items just as soon as we own them. And even though this is something that has been part of being a human being, the term wasn't coined until 1980. So, and this is a catch point too that I'd like you to put on the sticky side of your brain, that the longer that you own something, the more valuable it becomes. I had a friend when I worked at a law firm. He's a lawyer, intelligent man. He had a quarter jar of relish that had moved with him through college, through his first 2 jobs. The thing was 20 years old in 1987. And I don't doubt that he still has it. And when I reached for it in the refrigerator, he lunged across the kitchen and said, "Don't open that." So he just can't bring himself to get rid of it. It's something that he's had forever. And gosh, that's like 40 years ago, and he probably still has it. I should reach out. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but I bet you he still has that quarter jar of relish. So this is another wonderful TED Talk I want to share. It's very short.
After witnessing the violent rage shown by babies whenever deprived of an item they considered their own, Jean Piaget, a founding father of child psychology, observed something profound about human nature. Our sense of ownership emerges incredibly early. Why are we so clingy? There's a well-established phenomenon in psychology known as the endowment effect, where we value items much more highly just as soon as we own them. In one famous demonstration, students were given a choice between a coffee mug or a Swiss chocolate bar as a reward for helping out with research. Half chose the mug and half chose the chocolate. That is, they seemed to value the 2 rewards similarly. Other students were given a mug first and then a surprise chance to swap it for a chocolate bar. but only 11% wanted to. Yet another group started out with chocolate, and most preferred to keep it rather than swap. In other words, the students nearly always put greater value on whichever reward they started out with. Part of this has to do with how quickly we form connections between our sense of self and the things we consider ours. That can even be seen at the neural level. In one experiment, neuroscientists scanned
What happened?
participants' brains while they allocated various objects either to a basket labeled mine or another labeled Alex's. When participants subsequently looked at their new things, their brains showed more activity in a region that usually flickers into life whenever we think about ourselves. Another reason we're so fond of our possessions is that from a young age, we believe they have a unique essence. Psychologists showed us this by using an illusion to convince 3 to 6-year-olds they built a copying machine, a device that could create perfect replicas of any item. When offered a choice between their favorite toy or an apparently exact copy, the majority of the children favored the original. In fact, they were often horrified at the prospect of taking home a copy. This magical thinking about objects isn't something we grow out of. Rather, it persists into adulthood while becoming ever more elaborate. For example, consider the huge value placed on items that have been owned by celebrities. It's as if the buyers believed the objects they'd purchased were somehow imbued with the essence of their former celebrity owners. For similar reasons, many of us are reluctant to part with family heirlooms, which help us feel connected to lost loved ones. These beliefs can even alter our perception of the physical world and change our athletic abilities. Participants in a recent study were told they were using a golf putter once owned by the champion Ben Curtis. During the experiment, they perceived the hole as being about a centimeter larger than control participants using a standard putter, and they sank slightly more putts. Although feelings of ownership emerge early in life, culture also plays a part. For example, it was recently discovered that Hadza people of northern Tanzania, who are isolated from modern culture, don't exhibit the endowment effect. That's possibly because they live in an egalitarian society where almost everything is shared. At the other extreme, sometimes our attachment to our things can go too far. Part of the cause of hoarding disorder is an exaggerated sense of responsibility and protectiveness toward one's belongings. That's why people with this condition find it so difficult to throw anything away. What remains to be seen today is how the nature of our relationship with our possessions will change with the rise of digital technologies. Many have forecast the demise of physical books and music, but for now at least, this seems premature. Perhaps there will always be something uniquely satisfying about holding an object in our hands and calling it our own.
So since this has been out, I know that records are actually making a comeback. People are really appreciating the rich sound that you get from vinyl as opposed to the digital and even CDs. So something to keep in mind. Don't get rid of your albums just yet. So the most common types of physical clutter is general clutter without a storage space. So we bring items in, we don't actually have a home for it. There's, that old adage, everything in its place and a place for everything. This kind of falls into that type of clutter where you don't have a home for it. You're not really sure where to put it. That's a decision delayed. Trash masquerading as clutter. That would be a lot of the papers that we have, and a lot of things like I see here, like, bottles to be recycled, that sort of thing. So having all this stuff that's really outdated or no longer any good, that's considered clutter. Bargain clutter. If you go to Sephora on your birthday, they'll give you a free birthday gift. Sometimes you buy one thing, you get one thing free. The makeup stores are really infamous for giving away free clutch bags to keep all your makeup in. So it's something that happens. It's a bargain. How could you turn it down? You know, it's on sale. You know, it was a 2-for-1. Didn't need it, but you know, it's a great bargain. And then abundance clutter. Again, you know, ShopRite, they do those can sales, or any kind of groceries. You know, you just never know. We're going to need it. So we just have too much. And that's another type of clutter. And then aspirational clutter. That's the kind of clutter that you have because you had a hobby, or you've envisioned yourself having a hobby and you just don't have time for it, or you know, liken yourself to be an outdoorsy camp kind of person. So you buy all this gear because it makes you feel like you identify with this, you know, group of outdoorsy people. So we have aspirations that we don't always get to. And then there's the sentimental clutter, and that's all of the things that belong to our past, our grandparents, great grandparents, you know, all those wonderful things that, you know, you can go through an attic on a rainy day and it transports you back to another time. So sentimental clutter. So these are the 6 most common types of physical clutter that there is. So let's talk about some myths about physical clutter that have no basis in research. So myth 1, after I lose some weight, I'll fit into these clothes again. So if you struggle going up and down a few pounds, a few clothes sizes, this is a myth too, because once you do, if you are successful in losing the weight, some people do gain it back, or fashion changes. So the idea is that, you know, tell yourself that you will get new clothing that's more updated and less dated in your wardrobe. One of the things I've heard is that people will, they tell you to turn all of your hangers backwards, and then as you wear them, you turn the hanger back around to the right way, and then after a year, everything that is still facing the wrong way is something that you don't wear and that you can toss or donate or, you know, recycle. Myth 2 is I need to keep this just in case. Now, I don't want to hate on my husband, but I'm going through his toolbox and I found 3, actually 4 power testers where you just stick it in the outlet and it lights up to tell you whether or not power is getting to that outlet. 4. I have 4 of them, and none of them work because none of the batteries are operated. So 3 of them are going to the thrift store with the batteries pulled out, and then 1 I'm going to get fresh batteries for, and then I'll have a working. I only need 1, but you know, my dad fell into this too, where I can't find a hammer, he'd go out and buy a new one. And then he'd find his hammer, and then he'd have 2, and then he can't find both of them at one time, and he'd go out and buy a 3rd. And a lot of decluttering from my parents' house after they passed was finding 3 or 4 hammers, or, you know, screwdrivers or ratchet sets. So that just in case kind of thing. And don't even get me started on levels. I have levels of all different length, and even the tiny ones that hang from a little string that, you know, when you're trying to level something on a small scale. So this just in case kind of thing doesn't really hold water. And I need to just get organized, and then it'll be fine. If I just get, you know, everything in tubs, it'll be fine. But guess what? Organized clutter is still clutter. I can't even imagine in this garage why you would put chairs up here. Is that for like Thanksgiving when you have people come over? I don't know. And then the 4th myth is that it belongs to my grandmother or my grandfather, or, you know, whatever other relationship and what other item. If you're not using it or don't love it, declutter it. Things don't have to become yours simply because they belong to a relative, and you're not living his or her life, and you're not a bad person for giving away an inherited item. And I hear that a lot when talking to friends and family. And myth 5, it was a gift and I will appear ungrateful. But, you tell somebody that you like something, at least in my life, next thing you know, that's all I get. This is not mine, by the way. So here's a news flash. Once something has been given to you and is yours, you can do with as you please. I told my parents I liked nutcrackers. And in 3 years, I had about 50 nutcrackers of various sizes and quality in my Christmas decor. So just because it's a gift doesn't mean that you're ungrateful. It is yours to do with as you please. Myth 6, it brought me joy in the past, so I should keep it. So here's another news flash. You could take a picture of it, and then the memory will be sparked in the photograph, and then you don't have to keep the object. And they find that the joy somebody feels is the same joy as having the physical object. So the idea, though, is not to have a million pictures either. And the last one is myth 7. If I get rid of fill in the blank, I'll be getting rid of the memory that goes along with it. Some things do warrant being kept, but you shouldn't feel that you have to keep everything because you'll forget the joy and the memory that goes along to it. So again, you can take a picture of it. So, keep that in mind. But it is a balance. It's not like you have to get rid of everything. And that's certainly not what I'm suggesting. It's just if these things are making you feel like you're being held hostage, you can let go of them. So as far as myth busting goes, re-examine all you have been told, dismiss what insults your soul, and live your life. And Walt Whitman, that was way back then. So women in particular suffer under the weight of family belongings. UCLA found that 32 families that they interacted with their belongings found a correlation between high cortisol levels, stress in women, and a high density of household objects. So it kind of does usually fall on the woman to organize and, pare down. They're usually the keeper of the kids' clothing, kids' toys. They know what their kids are playing with, what they're not playing with, what size they're wearing. So it does kind of fall on them. So dealing with the physical clutter and finding peace in life, this is one of I usually do 3 because the keep ones don't usually go in a box. They usually go right back on the shelf. So donate or sell, recycle, trash. The older I get, the less I really want to sell things. But so garage sales are out. That just gives me a headache. So I might find the marketplace like on Facebook, or there's actually really cool groups now called Buy Nothing that you can find in your town, and that's neighbor helping neighbor. I've gotten a few things from the Buy Nothing group, but I've also given away a lot of items that just don't, want to deal with having to donate because I don't get to the thrift store all the time. So just, being able to help out a neighbor really makes me feel good. So how and where do we start? So starting with garbage, duplicates, things that are past their prime, those are the easy things. That's the low-hanging fruit. Once you pare that out, you'll start to feel a lot lighter and a lot better about the amount of items you have. The medicine cabinet or just a shelf. I constantly go through the medicine cabinet, but when I say constantly, I mean about every year. And I didn't think that I would have anything that's expired, but surprise, I had a lot of burn cream and poison ivy, itch cream, a lot of stuff that had just expired. And surprise, surprise, I, pared down out of my medicine chest. And I kind of surprised myself because I like to think that I'm on top of that. But, life gets in the way and you don't think about it. You can do all your kitchen cabinets or just one cabinet. Being able to open your kitchen cabinets and not have things fall on you, that's a bonus. That was my mom's downfall. She loved Tupperware, Rubbermaid, Anchor, Hawking, all of that. You'd open the cabinet and everything would come pouring out. So just being able to open your cabinet door feels wonderful. You can do your pantry or just a shelf in your pantry. You can do the linen closet or just one shelf of your linen closet, hall closet or just one shelf. The trunk of your car. I cleaned out our county car and I found stuff I've been meaning to give to one of my colleagues since before the pandemic. So the trunk of the car is a great place to store things because, you know, it's like a decision you don't have to make right now and you'll deal with it later. And then, you know, you go to put things in there for an event and it's already stuffed with things that don't need to be in there. And you can stop it from coming in by talking with family and friends. So my family knows that I'm trying to pare down. I kind of call myself a minimalist, but you know, let's face it, I'm really not. But I get a lot of things like massages or consumables or experiences. So this past Christmas, we had tickets to go see Home Free. And if you want to learn all about that country music a cappella group, I'll be more than happy to share. But these are just things that become life experiences and no clutter. So I'm really liking that. And then start small and work up to more difficult areas, such as the basement and the attic, because that's where we put things where we really can't make a decision. And, you know, people do different types of techniques, and we'll talk about them as well, because what works for one person might not work for another. So let's talk about those approaches. There's the one in, one out rule. For every one thing you buy, you must purge one thing. That works very well for some people. Sometimes if you're really looking to purge, you can do one in and two out. So you eventually pare down a lot. You can Google how to stop junk mail. You follow the instructions to reduce the unwanted solicitations. That works wonders. I have not done it in a while, so not sure how that works now or if it's still a thing, but it was before the pandemic. Take before and after pics. Who does not love a great before and after transformation? So whether it's, you know, your space that you're, you know, transforming, or whether you just want to, you know, have it be decluttered, it's a wonderful way to see progress and share it with friends and family. Set a timer. I do this for tidying. Somebody's coming in 15 minutes. So I do this major sweep through the house just to pick up things that have been laying around, stacking up the kids' toys. What I was always careful to do is not to just shove it in a closet. So it was more of taking the time and putting things where they belong. Do it with a friend. I've not done this, but chatting and laughing while you toss or purge is always a fun thing to do. You can compete. I've tried to do this with my kids. They were never on board with it, but you can challenge a family member, you know, like who can fill this box, who's got the most stuff to give away. That could happen. I've never done that with my kids. They just would not have it. There are challenges. You have you can look for declutter challenge on Pinterest and find all kinds of nifty stuff in there to help motivate you. Listen to a great audiobook or podcast while you purge. I used to listen to music while I did the purge. And my goal was, like, by the time I was done with, say, the White Album, that I would have one room done. You can sell things for fun money. You know, that it's found money. That's always a fun thing to do. You can get a nice massage for yourself. I once bought something years ago on eBay by accident, and I'll stand by this. It was pure accident, but the delay on the internet, it was dial-up at the time, was such that I got outbid, and then I got angry and I thought, okay, so if you want this item so much, you're going to pay through the teeth. So I kept upping it like every $50. And then I upped it one last time, and the delay was that I ended up winning it. It was not from 1896, A Cup of Sorrows from the reign of Nicholas II of Russia. And boy, my spouse was mad, but I ended up selling. I had a lot of Beatles stuff, and I ended up selling up a lot of my Beetle items on eBay so that I could have the money to buy that cup. So lesson there is don't try to get even, and don't be angry. I guess I deserve that. Give yourself a reward too. So, you spend the weekend decluttering, go see a movie, take a mini vacation, go out for ice cream, do something to give yourself a reward after all your hard work. And then this more for extension professionals, but take time after an event to organize your electronic files, put away the materials and supplies in your office, and also remove the clutter that's on your desk. So taking that time to do a little at a time will keep you from getting overwhelmed. And then give stuff away all the time. I do, it's called Buy Nothing, and you'll find a lot of those groups on Facebook, and they're for like your local town, and it's kind of fun. And, like I gave away a tile saw that my husband no longer uses. And I said, just share with me your stupid arguments with your significant other about home improvement projects. And everybody got a really good laugh over all the stories people were sharing. And then I picked somebody and I gave it away. So that's always fun, but give stuff away all the time. And you can see more, my control thing is here, and I'm not really sure if you can see that, but there's a resource here. I'll make sure to share the presentation. So if you want to click on any of the links to investigate, you certainly can. So we're running out of time. I want to run through this. So resources to support and inspire you. Zenhabits.net has uncopyrighted material, a blog, and a lot of ebooks. Trying to tackle a mountain of stuff can be quite overwhelming. And he suggests that you start with just 5 minutes. And then this is something that is more recent. They call this brown items, brown furniture. Newsflash, nobody wants your parents' stuff and nobody wants your stuff. So the young generation today, they're just, they like the IKEA stuff. They like the slim down. They're really not into the big clunky heavy furniture. And there's a wonderful article here from 2017. And from that article, I found this organization. They work with seniors who are moving, with people who are downsizing, and people who want to declutter. So it's a great organization. I think it's only like maybe 20 years old, if that. This is an organization that has professional members, so you can find somebody to help you if you're looking to help a parent pare down and move into a senior facility. Then there's minimalism. So Joshua Fields Milburn and Ryan Nicodemus, you saw them in the film. And it's important to remember that minimalism isn't just about having 50 items. He took it that far, but it's just using it as a guidepost to help you let go and give yourself permission to let go. Becoming Minimalist, he's got a blog, Facebook post, podcasts, and books. He has an uncluttered course that you can take. It's 12 weeks. I've not taken his course, but he was the first one I stumbled on when I was learning to like how to do the mental gymnastics to let go. He has this approach of understanding your weaknesses and your trigger points. Like, do you respond to sales, products, pricing patterns? My mom's Achilles heel was Tupperware, Anchor Hocking, and Rubbermaid, because she liked the idea of being organized, but she was also fell victim to clearance sales, as I do as well. And then are there specific emotions that give rise to mindless consumption? So he has you identify and recognize and understand the weaknesses. So that's Joshua Becker. And then gratitude. There's a ton of research that says that gratitude will help you from feeling the need to purchase more things and to keep up with the Joneses. So if you have the attitude of gratitude, that is a great tool in your toolbox to avoid overconsumption. So UC Davis is doing some research now on gratitude. And there are 8 ways to have more gratitude in your life. You know, don't be picky, appreciate everything, find gratitude in your challenges, keep a gratitude journal, volunteer, express yourself, spend time with loved ones, and improve your happiness in other areas of your life, and practice mindfulness. So that's mindfulness is a hot topic now. And for mindfulness, that can be deep breathing, just to get you out of that thought of having to purchase something, and set an intention. I have everything I need, or I'm happy with what I have, and bring yourself into the present moment. Use your 5 senses. That's a well-proven technique for getting in the present moment. And remind yourself you can come back. The one thing I do with Amazon, if I want something, I'll put it in the cart, and I go back to it after about a week. And if I still want it, then I buy it. If I look at it and go, what the heck did I put that in there for? Then it gets deleted. There's this thing called dostadning, and that's in Swedish. It's basically called Swedish death cleaning. And that is, it sounds morbid, but it's really not. It's about cleaning up and decluttering so you don't leave all this stuff behind for your children or grandchildren. So it's not really morbid. It's just, you know, realizing that our time on earth is limited, and you want to be able to, you know, live freely and not leave everything behind. So it doesn't have to be done in one go. It could be slowly chipping away at things over the years. And you start with the things you have in storage, or the attics or garages, and get rid of all those things that would be upsetting or hurtful or embarrassing for you or your family. I love this because I don't know how many extension programs where you can give the advice of save your favorite dildo, but throw away the others. I never thought I would be in this situation to share that advice, but that's dostadning. The photographs, letters, and journals to last, because that's usually the hardest. And if you know what you want done with certain things, tell someone or leave a note. And it's a great chance to actually talk to people and ask, what stuff of theirs do you want? Then there's the flylady.net. She works very gently, small routines, and then work up to things that are more complex. The key is consistency, take your time. And she starts with shining your sink. So before you go to bed at night, you clean your sink. So in the morning when you wake up, you have a clean sink. Anybody who has a significant other and or children, you'll learn that that's a little bit harder than what it sounds. Then there's the Marie Kondo. She's the author of The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. She has a Netflix show, a website, and her methodology is all in one shot. You do it all within a couple of days, and then you're done. So if that's a technique that you think you'll respond to, that's a great way of doing it as well. And she has the sparking joy. So you touch each item, and if it sparks joy, you keep it. If it doesn't, you pass it on. And she has a specific order. You go clothes, books, paper, miscellaneous, and lastly, sentimental items. So the idea of being uncluttered, it's just very freeing in the mind and very relaxing. So while you might need all the things here in this picture, they don't necessarily all have to be out for you to see. So minimalism is that guardrail, not a destination, as I said. and a balance between what we need and what we want. And it's not the least amount possible. I shuddered to think in the very beginning, I could never be a minimalist because I like my stuff, but you can still like your stuff. It's different for everybody. So it's not the least amount possible. You have clarity, purpose, intentionality, so that the things that we value most are utilized and enjoyed. And then there's hygge. That's the Danish concept. That's basically like cozy contentment and well-being through enjoying simple things, sans clutter. So that's an approach as well. And then there's feng shui, and that's spatial arrangement for qi, which is energy, and you want to have a flow of qi, and clutter stagnates and confuses energy. So a lot of people kind of take to this as well because it's purposeful. So I mentioned a lot of different research when I was doing the presentation. So I have some of that here. Also, like I said, I'll share the PowerPoint. We'll figure out somewhere whether it be the slides or the presentation or the recording of this. And then that way you can refer back and kind of do a deep dive into some of those links that were shared. So, and anytime I just clicked on the chat, it would stop my recording. So I didn't get to enjoy any of the comments or anything that was mentioned. Is there anything that anybody wants to share before we end for the day?